Okay, so let's go ahead now and we'll actually start adding some new elements to our design. It's like extra layers and here and whatnot. So just to kind of give you a bit of a spoiler alert, guys, those extra thingies or extra accessories that we're going to be adding are going to mostly be belts. Okay, I don't know, there's something about belts that just kind of make a design kind of pop a little bit, I think. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add, let's see, let's go to the very topmost layer. And I'll pick a green for this one because it is kind of like a tertiary layer. So similar to the lace cravat that we added in the last couple of videos, I'm going to add the belts in a similar way. So the first thing I want to do is actually want to come down to the boots. And I told you before I wanted to add like an extra element to them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I want to add a kind of wrapping element here. So add a belt that kind of wraps around the bottom of the boot there like that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same for around here, essentially just a belt that would go around the kind of ankle fold there as well. Now I don't actually quite know how that would sit at the moment because it's obviously got creases there and whatnot, but just for penciling in the idea like that just for now, just to sort of see how it changes up that silhouette and see if we can make the silhouette a bit more interesting rather than leaving it rather simplified, which is what I'd use to describe our character at the moment. Is that it's probably a good design, or I wouldn't say it's a good design yet, but it's probably got a good idea conceptually speaking, but it's kind of weak at the moment. So I do want to try and address and fix some of that. Let's just put a very basic belt in there, a clip, buckle. So you can see that with the add-on of these straps now, we're even looking more naval-like. We're kind of going and embracing the pirate lifestyle to a degree by adding in those belts there. And then we've added one already kind of there on the gloves. It's just blanked out there for a minute. What was that? Okay, so and the other part I want to kind of add belts to is obviously I want to do something to the trousers. And of course she's definitely going to have the typical belt that we all have. Around here we're going to have a belt there, okay, but of course being a gunslinger type character, she's going to want to have a lot more kind of variety of belts as well. She's probably going to have a standard belt there that goes around there, no problem. But the kind of belt I want to give her, I'm just bringing my reference here so you can see. I like this one here, which is the Machinist's belt from Final Fantasy XIV. That's a very nice looking belt there. I also like the way this kind of belt hangs down there for the sword. Now I have absolutely no idea what that looks like on the back or where that goes, but if it looks cool, we'll add it. That's generally the rule here. And let's see, so she might even end up having like sort of 3 kind of belts, which might seem excessive, but well, we'll see how we go. I mean, excessive would be Final Fantasy X Lulu's dress. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you could Google that up and see what I mean. And that's definitely an excess of belts. So let's make a decision to go with something like the Machinist's belt here, where it's kind of got the ammunition on the hip of the belt there, and we'll probably try and add this kind of looping belt hanging down there just for a bit of fashion, so it's like kind of something hanging off the waist there a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll have a look at that Machinist's belt now. So it's up to you which way you want the belt to go. You can either have it going in this direction or you can have it going in that direction. At the moment I kind of feel like with this long pointy part here, it almost lends itself to kind of start over on the right hand side and go over towards the left hand side. So let's do something like that. Let's go ahead and put that in now. Now we don't really have a determinate kind of thickness of this just yet, but possibly something. I think a belt on the thicker side of things would sit better than a belt that was leaning more towards a thin profile. I think a thicker belt would fit this idea here. Perhaps, we don't know exactly, well, I'd say I don't know exactly how thick that's going to be until I probably do that in 3D, and I will probably even make revisions and stuff like that in the 3D space as well. You might actually notice as I'm doing these things, it's very difficult for me to get a really decent idea how things look in 2D because my drawing is not up to par, and it's a little bit hard to draw exactly what I'm thinking of. Now for this part here where it kind of hangs down, let's just embrace it, let's just go with it. We'll kind of figure out how it attaches to the belt in a minute, but it's kind of got like a, let's just draw a little triangle here to represent the kind of hanging part, and then it kind of just loops across, and then of course it will go around the back somewhere, and we don't know where that goes. But what we have got there is a very nice, what could we say, complicated aspect to the waist. Now the waist looked very bland. If I just hide this now, the waist looked very bland with just the trousers, the shirt and the waistcoat. But now that we've added the belt in there, it's kind of added that extra tertiary layer of equipment that just makes it look like, oh yeah, okay, that's a lot more appealing and interesting to the eye. Okay, we'll sort out the mechanism that joins these two together just in a bit, but I also am very keen to kind of give her almost a lot of satchels, so for example over here, she might kind of borrowing the idea from Final Fantasy XIV's Machinists. They have giant satchels of goods and ammo and equipment and stuff like that on their waist, tons and tons and tons of it. So if I just bring back the Machinist here, you can see that on this apparatus here, that's just hanging completely off the character's waist, and it looks a little bit bizarre, but actually it does absolute wonders for breaking up the silhouette and making the silhouette really, really look interesting. I'm just going to very shoddily draw in some ammunition there just to indicate that yes, I will want to have some kind of pattern going around the belt. I might even extend the size of the belt a little bit, just make it a bit bigger. Quite a jumbo sized belt. Okay, let's have a look. That looks okay for now. Let's see if we can tidy this up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so maybe it's a bit big, but it's okay. I'm going to leave it like that for now. And let's go ahead and do my favorite part, and we'll color it in. So we'll go belt color. What would you say belts, because we've drawn more than one, and I forgot to label this layer. I'm actually doing quite well with labeling things actually. Usually I just forget. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to our alternate color, and yes, it's gonna be a shade of grey. I know, it's not amazing, but again, just for the purposes of building up the different layers and seeing what they all look like, it's good enough. There we go. We can always decide the final colors later, sorry. And here's the thing, I mean, we're making this character together, but I do very much encourage, if you're following along at home, you can maybe look at some of the design elements here and you can go, oh, that's a good idea, or you can say, nah, I wouldn't do that. So don't do it. Don't just follow along completely in 100% in the way. If you see a design element I'm adding or something like that and you don't like it, then of course you have the power to completely omit that if you'd like to. Of course, this is a course that we should be making this character together and whatnot, and both be happy with it. But I can't consult with you guys live, so we're just gonna have to see what character we'll end up with. But yes, if you want to deviate from anything I'm doing, I do encourage you to do that. Just bear in mind, of course, that the more you deviate, it's likely that the less this course will kind of directly apply to you. But I'm sure you can figure it out as well. You can use the techniques I'm showing you here to inform what you would do. Okay, so this is where my shades of grey idea does not work out. I'm going to have to use a really dark shade of grey to get this going here, because the boots are already quite a dark grey. So if I set it to that grey, I'm going to make it even darker. And I'm just going to paint that in, hopefully, yes. Yes, there we go. Okay. Okay, so not looking too bad so far. Now, one thing I will confess to you guys is I am very much, and I'm just going to keep in the color layer for now, I'll just show you what I mean. I am very much wanting to have some kind of sash going across the top there like that, but I'm kind of in two minds about it. Perhaps it should go across the other side. I'm thinking about it. I do feel like I'd want to do something like that, but to be completely honest with you, I don't know just what that would look like and what that would entail at the moment. I got the idea from this part here. You see this? I like the way that comes across. Now, the difference being, of course, that that's on a male character. Ours is a female character, and of course we have to take into account the breast area. Even though she's wearing a waistcoat, you know, depending upon her bust size, it's going to be different, okay? But obviously it's not going to be as flat as a male's chest. So how that's going to sit exactly is a kind of a big question mark, which I'll be honest with you, probably, at least I'm not going to be able to figure out until I get to the 3D stage. And I know I'm saying that as a lot of caveats, but unfortunately, it's quite true. My brain has been trained to think in 3D, and not very well in 2D, but I will just do my best to get by. So let's try and add that element in there at the moment. Maybe I might make it an extra kind of layer, just in case I don't like it. I'm going to call it chest belt, because I come up with the most imaginative of names. I'm just going to come up with a kind of pad that sits somewhere like that, maybe on the shoulder, almost like a kind of shoulder pad there, but it's a leather pad like I showed you in the concept art there. And I do want this kind of belt. It starts with a ring here and it seems to just stretch across. And now the belt here goes across the chest like that, but I actually think that's a little bit too high. I would want it kind of coming a little bit lower, almost somewhere down here, so it comes across the chest and again adds that kind of tertiary layer of detail. So I'm just going to draw a strap that perhaps you can see that I kind of got the angle a little bit off. Let's come down. Yeah, something like that. There we go. Okay, so a little bit off. Maybe we can join it up like that. There we go. That's a better trajectory. And let's tidy that up a little bit. Okay. And the nice thing about belts is that they're wonderfully easy to create in something like ZBrush, but they can be quite a pain to get rigged in Maya. At least that's my interpretation of it. So if you're seeing this and you're thinking about the rigging part a little bit later on in the course and you're sweating a little bit, I can't blame you. I'm sweating too. But at this point in time, I just want to give precedence to the design completely. But don't worry, we'll get through the rigging section together. Fingers crossed. And let's go ahead and add like an extra pad on there. I'm just basically using the concept art that I've got there now. So the things on my mood board, just gonna make that a nice ring. I suppose I should make that a silver ring. Just draw the outline so I can color it. Okay, and it's even got like an ammo pack kind of stretched across the breast here that goes under the armor there. But I don't know if that's maybe a bit too excessive. But I'll draw it in anyway. Just why not? Kind of just finishes around there, and it would just kind of go there, because I mean, how that's gonna wrap around the back, I don't know. I think possibly I might just forego that. Actually, I'll just decide against it, because obviously this strap will go around the back and just wrap up around the same area again on the back there, no problem. So let's go ahead to the, let's say, chest belt color. Let's create a new layer for that. Fantastic, and let's switch back to that grey. We'll use the same grey for the other belts. Keep it consistent. And we'll just colour it in. And there we go. I kind of get that pad in there as well. So now you can sort of see that where the collar is, we've got an additional layer of detail now, which is also quite cool. That's kind of enhanced that quite well. Unintentionally well, actually. So I'm quite pleased with that. There we go. Fabulous. Okay, our character looks almost ready, and I say almost because there's a part of this character now that looks a little bit unfinished, and I wonder if you're feeling the same way as I am. But yes, I am particularly looking at the legs. So when it comes to legs, what can we do? There's quite a few things. Let's look at our mood board. Now we can add an element of armor to it. Okay, that's one thing you could do. So for example, if you look at the knight here, we've got like kind of leg armor there. We've got satchels here, but you can see that the red mage, again from Final Fantasy XIV, has this kind of wrapping that comes down, and that's not an uncommon thing for cowboys as well. They kind of got like this I don't know, are they chaps? I don't know what to say. We kind of got a bit of leather that hangs down there as extra protection. It's kind of tied on there as well. And we've got that kind of frilly bit, which is very much Lady Maria style. And in fact, oh, hold the phone. Hold the phone. I've just seen something I really, really like the look of. You see this part here, this belt? Right. Let's just hide this for now. And let's come back to our trousers. Now, this is a detail we'll probably unfortunately never see, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. So, I'm just going to take that styling I saw there, because I was like, you know what, that looks rather fabulous, and it looks gothic as well. So, yes, I'm just going to bring that over there. Yes, there we go. So we've even got like an interesting kind of, unfortunately that's hidden under the shirt there, we've even got this kind of interesting sort of belt trousers. How the way the trousers affix themselves there, and we just make the little kind of dots like that. Okay, so again, it's just a bit more interesting. Let's see if we can apply that to the belts itself. The belts somewhat cover it up, so I'll tell you what, let's apply that to the belt then. Okay, we'll keep the trousers as they are, so we'll just undo all of that. And this is the wonderful thing about inspiration, and the annoying thing about it, it just kind of smacks you in the face sometimes. I've been staring at that picture and that mood board for ages, and it never occurred to me. But of course, the one time I'm looking at it now, it goes, oh yes, that looks a great idea, but that just simply didn't dawn on me whatsoever any time before just now. So under there, we can kind of also cover this shorter part of the vest as well, so we can kind of just have this interesting, almost blade-like belt area there, just because that's quite cool looking. And then now we can fill that in to see what that looks like. It's a small change, but I think it's quite good because it adds an element of uniqueness to that belt now. That's not just a standard belt with a standard belt buckle. That's now a belt that's got, what could we say, like a unique kind of clasp over it. Okay. So another thing as well to kind of help with the legs, and I was talking about this part here, let's just go and see what happens if we add that in there. So this is very much kind of stuff in my head that I would class as being rather uncharted territory. So do bear with me if the result is a little bit, what could we say, less than satisfactory. So we'll go back to a yellow, because again this is quite a kind of secondary layer, and we'll just kind of add that in. So let's say the straps are kind of around the middle perhaps. Okay, we'll just kind of have something coming down there. And we obviously need a stylistic way to kind of finish it on the front. Maybe it kind of flares out like that, or it could kind of flare in like this. Possibly the latter. Let's try the latter. So almost, maybe that's too far down. We'll leave the knees alone. There we go. And we just kind of bring that up. Something like that. And I don't really know what this is going to do other than serve a purpose to give our trousers some extra layers to it that otherwise wouldn't be there. Okay, that's literally why they are there. And obviously we need some kind of thing to fasten this here, so perhaps we do need a belt that would kind of come across here and just kind of wrap, and we can even tuck that belt under there like so. And then of course we could give like a belt buckle again, something like that. Okay, now I'm not exactly sold on the idea completely. You might be looking at that and probably wincing. Part of me is wincing, but at the moment it's okay. I'm gonna let it stay for now, and we'll see how that goes later on. So if I was to draw this front on, what does that look like from the front on? It possibly looks something a little bit like, well, it might just be, if that's it'd probably just be something like that, to be honest. Nothing too flash, but I suppose it could be, if we were going to refine the shape a bit more, I suppose we could make it a bit more angular, again to kind of accentuate the femininity of the character. So if we make this edge here perhaps a straight edge, very straight like that, we could actually do a kind of curvature, something like that. Possibly, you know, and then of course the belt kind of wraps around there, and then you know, goes wherever it needs to there. And this will just kind of tie in to the belt part there underneath there, and then we can have some kind of nice pattern on here or something like that. But basically we could also make it part of the trousers, just kind of already pre-stitched in, if you like. That's another idea. But basically that's just probably going to give the trousers an extra flair. So let's go ahead and add that in there, and I'm just going to, you guessed it, give it a shade of grey to represent the extra elements that we've got working here. I just want to see how that interrupts the silhouette of the trousers. Really, that's basically the primary goal at the moment, is does it make the trousers look more interesting? And then we come across. Okay. Okay, well, what's the verdict? What do you think, guys? I think that's not too bad. I'm not so sure about the shade of grey it is. I'd almost want it to be a different shade, just to distinguish it from the others. I don't want it being inferred as part of the waistcoat or anything like that. But I do like the look of it. I do think that could work nicely. It looks a little bit stiff in the art, but because we've got this extra drawing here, it will remind me that it's not stiff. It's actually kind of a little bit loose, if you like. Okay. Let's see. Any other parts that we could do here? I think what we could benefit with doing is, well, I do want to. Okay, you know what? I think one more thing I'll do before the end of this video, and this is just food for thought rather than actually, hey, let's go ahead and we'll do it. But and this is an element I guess I want to talk about a little bit as well, is that the Final Fantasy aspect of a character. Now, what do I mean about Final Fantasy aspect? Just add random components, and I not say random because that seems to make Final Fantasy, the character designers, just do things randomly, but it's obviously not random, but it almost appears random. Sometimes just adding an accessory randomly here, like on the shoulder there for instance, can help make the character look unique and stand out. I mean, if you think about Cloud from Final Fantasy VII's soldier armor, you know, it's quite simple, but there's belts in these places, there's that particular sweater that he wears. You then think about Tifa's outfit and how she's got belts all over the place, she's got special pleats and whatnot. Sometimes a rogue, let's say a rogue element like this belt up here could actually help just introduce that final kind of tinge of uniqueness that can just really kind of set apart a character design from what could be an otherwise, what can we say, standard or expected, typical design, you know. And that's the wonderful thing about Final Fantasy characters, that they just have this immense ability to look unique at any given point in time. You know, if you play the MMO Final Fantasy XIV, which I've heavily inferred that I do, you can just see that every piece of gear you get from a dungeon is so uniquely designed. It's just, wow, it's, well, probably not every piece, but a lot of pieces of gear, particularly, you know, for our character, if we're thinking about it. If you look at the Gunbreaker class, it's so unique and it's wonderfully looking. Yeah, it really is a good kind of, what can we say, a good reminder of how creative you can be when it comes to character design. The only thing I'm just going to do here, guys, is whilst I'm rabbiting on, I'm just going to add a few details here to kind of make our drawing look a little bit more realistic, just so it doesn't look so rubbish. Yeah, and because these boots are obviously made out of a kind of a beaten leather, let's say. Is that the right term? Something that's probably quite well worn and what have you. Okay, so we're just kind of adding in a few little fabric folds in here and there to make the boots look a little bit more interesting. There we go, just so they don't look so plain. And I think I might even introduce an element of a kind of strap that goes all the way, not a strap, sorry, but a seam that goes all the way down the sides of the boot as well, just to give that a bit more appeal, something like that. Okay, yeah, that made a difference. Okay, Alright, fantastic guys. So what are we going to do? I'm going to leave that video here for now, but hopefully you can see the difference between the last video and this video. We've added a lot more components on top to keep the character design looking interesting. I think what we've got left to do now, you see we haven't even brought the base mesh back. That's another thing as well, which is quite cool. But I think the other thing that we've got to do now is the last couple of parts, which will be a hat of some kind and a coat of some kind. Still missing those two key elements. So let's go ahead and address that in the next one.